Welcome Charter Board members and school leaders. The topic of this mini-course is completing Charter Board member training. Would you like to review the law and learn ideas to complete board member training? Would you like resources shared by another charter school? This mini-course may help you. In this mini-course, you will review the law, learn ideas, get resources, test your knowledge, and receive a certificate of completion. When reviewing the law, ideas, and resources, think about how you will complete the required training and help others do so too. Let's start by reviewing the law. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 7, states that every charter school board member, including initial board members, must attend board training. Furthermore, every non-voting ex officio member who is a charter school director or chief administrator must attend board training. The law specifies that prior to beginning a term, a new board member must complete training on a charter school board's role and responsibilities, open meeting law, and data practices law. An ex officio member who is a charter school director or chief administrator must complete this training within 3 months of starting employment at the school. The law specifies that new board members must complete training on employment policies and practices under Chapter 181 within 12 months of being seated on the board. They must also complete training on public school funding and financial management, and on the board's roles and responsibilities regarding student success, achievement, and performance. Note that if the training is not completed within 12 months of being seated on the board, the individual is automatically ineligible to continue to serve as a board member. Furthermore, a board member who does not complete training within the 12-month period is ineligible to be elected or appointed to a charter school board for a period of 18 months. In addition, the law requires that the board conduct an annual assessment of the training needs of individual members and the full board. Board members must complete annual training based on the results of the annual assessment of the board's performance. The results of the annual assessment must be included in the school's annual report. The training each board member completed during the previous year must also be included in the school's annual report. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, Subdivision 7, specifies that the ongoing training includes but is not limited to the following topics: budgeting, financial management, recruitment and hiring, and evaluating a charter school director or chief administrator, governance management relationships, student support services, and student discipline, state standards, cultural diversity, succession planning, and strategic planning, program oversight and evaluation, compensation systems, and human resources policies, effective parent and community relationships, authorizer contract and relationships, charter school law and legal liability, board recruitment and elections, board meetings and operations, policy development and review, and school health and safety. The law stipulates that the organization or person providing training must certify the individual's completion of the training provided. According to the law, the charter school is responsible for covering the costs related to board training. To summarize, what are the requirements for charter school board member training? Charter school board members must meet initial training requirements. Initial training on the board's role and responsibilities, open meeting law, and data practices law must be completed before a board member is seated. New board members then have 12 months from being seated to complete training on employment policies and practices, and public school funding and financial management. Training on the board's roles and responsibilities regarding student success, achievement, and performance must also be completed within the first 12 months of being seated. Board members who do not complete initial training by these deadlines are not eligible to serve on the board and are ineligible to be elected or appointed any charter school board for 18 months. Every charter school board member must also complete annual training. This ongoing training must be based on the individual member and board training needs that the board identified in an annual assessment. The organization or person providing the training must certify the individual's completion of the training. The results of the annual assessment of board performance and the training each board member completed the previous year must be included in the school's annual report. What are some ideas that may help charter school board members effectively complete training requirements? Create and adopt board standards and indicators aligned to the required and included training topics identified in the law. Then use the standards and indicators to create a charter board needs assessment for board members. For example, charter school board members must complete training on a charter school board's role and responsibilities and open meeting law. Therefore, a standard could be that the board follows open meeting law. A related indicator could be that the board ensures board meetings are open and accessible to the public by posting the location, time, and agenda on the website and front door. Use the results of the needs assessment to identify and plan for annual and ongoing training. Devote 20 to 30 minutes of each board meeting to board training. Identify the training in board meeting agendas and document completion of the specific training in the board meeting minutes. For each board member, maintain a record of training dates and topics and certificates of completion, as well as the date each board member was seated. Use records of training dates and dates seated or employed to verify compliance with training requirements. Following are questions that you may want to ask to help meet training requirements. How does the board ensure new members have completed initial training on the board's role and responsibilities, open meeting law, and data practices law before being seated? How does the board ensure that the charter school director or chief administrator completes this training within 3 months of starting employment at the school? How does the board ensure new members complete training on employment policies and practices and other required training within the first 12 months? How does the board remove members who do not complete the required training? How does the board assess board performance and plan for annual and ongoing training using the results? How does the board keep track of and document the training that each board member completes to verify that all board members meet training requirements? How can the board systematize the documentation and reporting of board training to make it most effective and efficient? Now that you have reviewed the law, learned ideas from other charter boards, and considered questions, let's look at ways you can support school success. By understanding the training requirements and deadlines, you can take personal responsibility to meet them and prevent having to remove members who don't. With standards and a board performance assessment, you can make sure training meets the needs of individual board members and the full board. You can also help other board members meet training requirements and help the board document training for the school's annual report. In conclusion, here are some potential next steps. Examine when each board member was seated and verify that there is evidence that each board member meets training requirements. Create standards, indicators, and a needs assessment that the board can use to assess board performance. Use the needs assessment to identify board training needs and plan for training that meets those needs. Verify that the school's annual report includes the results of the performance assessment and the training attended by each board member. Compare and contrast your board's performance assessment tool and related plan for training with those from other charter schools to gain and share ideas. Contribute your ideas and tools for ways to meet charter board member training requirements. Information in this video is not intended to address specific questions or issues a particular school may be facing. Charter schools should work with their authorizer, financial service provider, auditor, lawyer, and staff to address any specific issues. We hope this information is helpful in completing charter board member training.